Welcome, everyone, to this regular session of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Monday, September 12th. First order of business, as always, is to pledge to the flag. Please rise and join me. Thank you. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins.
Here.
Council Vice President Healy.
Here.
Councilwoman Clow.
Here.
Councilwoman Gledhill.
Here.
Councilman Veely.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
I make a motion that we approve item number 4, A, B, and C collectively.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve item number 5, the consent agenda, as presented.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously as well. Item 6 is licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Churus Real Estate, doing business as Spangles, 324 Main Street, Wakefield. Application by Kim Churus, 80 White Falls Trail. Please come up to the podium. Just state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Kim Churus.
Welcome. So tell us about Spangles.
Okay, so I bought the Spangles store on June 1st. It's an awesome spot. Downtown Wakefield is really revitalized. I love it. And I'm going to be making a few changes in there, and bringing it up a level. And yeah, so I'm here to apply for that permit.
Welcome to town. Any questions?
Will you be keeping the hours the same as what they were, or are you changing things?
Pretty much the same, yes. Yep.
I've been in a few times. You've brought in some really nice new things.
Yeah, we're going to be redoing the space after the holiday, and yeah, looking
That's a
forward
great
to.
store.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to see you move in there.
Yeah, it's fun.
Motion to approve agenda item 6A.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Happy to see you there, Kim.
Thank you.
6B is a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Prime Communications, doing business as AT&T authorized retailer. This is by Paula Kiefer. Hello, how are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
Very good, thanks.
My name is Angela Smith.
Where do you live, just for our records here?
I live in Coventry, Rhode Island.
So, AT&T authorized retailer, that sort of explains it in itself, but if you want to tell us anything about your business, please do.
Sure. Prime Communications is a business based out of Texas, and they are a retailer for AT&T. So we service all AT&T related needs for any phones, home services, and technical service issues.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve item 6B.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Good luck. Item 6C is a resolution granting a Class F 19-hour beverage license to the Unquiet Professional. She is. For the annual fundraiser award dinner to be held on Saturday, October 15th from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Sons of Liberty. Application by Krista Simpson.
I'm not Krista Simpson, but I am Shelley Kolb. Krista Simpson is my daughter. She's the co-founder of the Young Quiet Professional, also known as TUP. This is the second annual fundraiser in Wakefield, and last year it was held at the Muse. It's primarily held at the Peacedale Shooting Preserve, and that's the day part of the program. The evening part of the program is going to be held at a venue nearby, and because it's not being held at the Muse this year, we need a liquor license for it, which is primarily just beer and wine. It'll be for about 250 people, and it's at the Sons of Liberty.
Any questions?
How do you, any worries about parking or anything like that? Are you going to be able to utilize the lot across the street?
I don't know.
Okay.
Liz, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm hoping that there aren't going to be any worries about parking, but I guess that's never a assured thing over there.
Yeah, it's tough. I know when they have the
Tough.
farmer's market, it can get a little hairy.
It does. I think people generally find a way to get over there, park somewhere, but yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the Unquiet Professional does?
The Unquiet Professional is a non-for-profit organization, a 501(c) that, as I said, was co-founded by my daughter, Krista Simpson, who is a Gold Star wife. She lost her husband in Afghanistan in 2013. He was a Special Forces soldier over there, a sergeant, staff sergeant. And she founded the organization in his honor, but the funds go primarily to Gold Star children and wives. Some of the organizations that she has given funds to, it's a completely volunteer organization. There are no paid employees whatsoever. The funds go to Special Warriors Operation Fund, to 5 U.S. Wives, which is a Gold Star Wives team, to Wear Blue Run to Remember, which is an organization that honors all of our fallen soldiers since 9/11 in the War on Terror every Saturday. That's actually an international organization. She's funded many Gold Star, runners, wives, sons, daughters in that program. Those are some of the organizations that she really filters funds through her organization. So that's why it's a complete volunteer. No paid staff.
Motion to approve agenda item 6C.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you very much. We hope you all come.
We'll be there.
Item 6D is a resolution granting a Class F1 19-hour beverage license to Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce of Tower Hill Road for the Taste of Southern Rhode Island event to be held Thursday, October 13th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Beastdale Mill Complex. That's, everyone knows where that is. Richard Pike here is the applicant.
My name is Richard Pike. I'm representing the chamber, and I have some flyers that I'd like to give, which has all the hours. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
so this is our 5th annual, and it usually sells out. So if you want to go, get your tickets early. I'll say that. It's a great event. There are going to be 28 to 30 local vendors, restaurants, Sweeney's, Jaber's, people with wine. It's going to end. We're also, Sons of Liberty is part of the operation. So there'll be something for everyone. And we will have fire detail. We're going to have police to help with the parking, and we also have valet parking. But we're going to have police to help people on and off of Kingstown Road. And we've also talked to the people who just bought the pump house, and they've agreed to let us use that as overflow parking. So I think we have it pretty much covered. And we will have liquor license insurance, so that's good.
Any questions?
This is typically a great event for you. I've heard nothing but great things. So
People who have gone in the past, Chamber deserves great kudos for this. They've done a fantastic job organizing this event.
Thank you.
And it's a great showcase to the businesses in town that are also showing their wares. It gives the community an opportunity to visit the restaurants as well.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 6D.
Second?
So moved. I know that Joe is going to recuse himself from this vote. But
I am an officer of the organization, so I will recuse.
so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And by a vote of 4-0, that passes unanimously with one recusal. Item 6E. Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. Hope to see you.
Good luck.
Hope to see you all there. Like I
There.
said, it sells out. Buy your tickets early.
Yes.
Thank you.
It is worth it. 6E is a resolution granting a Class F 19-hour beverage license to the Wakefield Village Association for the Wakefield River Festival to be held on Saturday, October 1st from 1 to 10 p.m. In the parking lot of 323 Main Street. This is subject to approval by the town's Traffic and Transportation Review Committee. The application is by Janet Birtwell. Welcome. So both of you can state your names for the record. That would be welcome.
I'm Janet Burtwell.
Ken Tatzner.
Welcome. You want to tell us a little bit about River Fire this year?
I have some small flyers too I can hand you guys.
Excellent.
So basically, we're going to throw, every year we actually have the festival. This year the WVA took it over, and we're controlling it ourselves and running it ourselves. We have about 30 to 40 artists and vendors already signed up. We actually brought in Patriots cheerleaders because we thought that would be a nice thing. So we have them come to take pictures and sign some autographs. We also worked with Parks and Recreation. So they were going to have a little carnival for kids at Old Mountain Field. We got them to switch the venue over to the Saugatucket Park. So basically, we're shutting down the street from 12 to 5 o'clock. We'll have artisans and vendors on the street. And then behind the bell block, we take over the town parking lot. And we'll have some more artisan vendors. With the local waves, they're going to show up with their mascot. We have, help me out.
We have the Cardi mascot, the URI Ram.
Yep. Big Nazo characters for the kids.
Tropical dancers.
Tropical dances. We have about 10 bands throughout the day that we're going to set up along the street and in the back. And then at night, on the patio of the CTC, we have 3 bands playing.
It's free of charge.
Free of charge. We're actually doing a lot of marketing. The idea is to bring attention to not only downtown Wakefield, but the Saugatucket River. Our hopes are to clean that up, so we're trying to bring as much attention to that as we can. We're also rolling out, we worked with the town already in the past. You guys were nice enough to give us some money for some new river baskets. Those will be done. We have one done that we're picking up this week. We're going to try it out, and then the rest of them will be done, and we'll be doing a river fire that night to kind of do a big celebration to bring those out as well. So it's going to be a good time.
Any questions?
Sounds like a great day.
Yeah, be a lot of fun.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve item 6E as presented.
Second?
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Good
Hope
luck.
you guys can all make it.
I hope so too.
Got a lot of events coming up.
Item 7A, bringing us to public hearings, is a public hearing relative to an application for a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with the general laws of 1956. This would be for a Class B victualler liquor license. The application is filed by JSR Company doing business as Tony's Pizza Palace, 1916 Kingstown Road of Wakefield, Rhode Island, by John Reeves, president for the first floor dining area and counter with the consumption of food, as described in the special exception granted by the Zoning Board of Review on April 17th, 1992, and further defined in the site plan on file in the town clerk's office. Said license is contingent upon compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes and user fees in arrears to the town, and correction of any fire code violations. Welcome.
Welcome. Good. Thanks for having us. My name's William Kitsillas. I'm an attorney for JSR Company DBA Tony's Pizza Palace. I'm here with John Reeves, the president and sole shareholder of JSR.
So you guys already have a limited Class B license. This is just trying to get a full license, right?
Correct.
do you want to tell us any more about the new business that you anticipate?
I mean, I'll let Mr. Reeves comment, but as the place is currently configured, I don't think that there'll be a substantial increase in much of anything. This is kind of a play for a long-term development that Mr. Reeves has been discussing with his family about possibly expanding there. Right now, it'll just help augment kind of what's there. So we don't anticipate any additional issues or necessary adjustments to the operation as it's currently situated with respect to adding alcoholic beverages there. It's not like we have a 50-person bar coming in there right now. So it's going to be configured the same way it is right now, and that's really it. So.
Other questions from council members? All right, thank you very much. We'll accept testimony from the public at this point, if there is any on this issue. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That public hearing is closed. And I think at this point we'll bring forward item 13A in order to make 7A possible. So 13A under new business is a resolution affirming or amending the town's liquor license rules and regulations in section 1. And it designates the current number of licenses for each class and shall be authorized as indicated below. Do I hear a motion 13A?
I make a motion to approve item 13A, taking the victualler licenses from 27 to 28 and taking the Class B limited license from 3 to 2.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously. And we can go back to item 7A.
I make a motion to approve agenda item 7A.
Second.
So moved.
Finish the language. Contingent upon compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes and user fees and arrears to the town, and the correction of any fire code violations.
Second.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Is there any further discussion on this item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Item 7B is our second public hearing, a public informational hearing relative to an application from the South Kingstown Land Trust for funding in accordance with the Town of South Kingstown's open space project funding policy. Said funding will be considered for the potential purchase of approximately 19.76 acres of the Wells Farm property on 634A Barbers Pond Road, portion of the Assessor's Plat 5, Lot 8. I believe somebody from the Land Trust is here. Is there anything that needs to be read into the record for this? No.
Hi, I'm Joanne Riccitelli, the Land Protection Director for the South Kingstown Land Trust. Just to review a bit about this application, this is the long-running project. We've been working with the family, which is 5 siblings, most of whom do not live here anymore, for over 10 years. We've tried various different scenarios for trying to protect as much of this land as we could. And now we're at the configuration that seems to have worked so far. So our application to you is the final piece of the funding puzzle for putting this together. We, in total, will be able to protect, if this goes through, 33 acres of this property, 20 of it, almost 20 of it, in fee, and about 13 in easement. We have funding from DEM, through their open space program of $300,000 to go toward both equally, the fee and the easement portions. We have the remainder of the easement portion of the purchase covered by the Federal Farmland Protection Agency, the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So the easement is fully funded. The fee piece, half of the DEM money, $150,000, is going to go toward the fee purchase. We had received a grant from the Baflin Foundation, which is a private foundation, for $75,000. We had another private donation of $6,000, and the remainder is what we're asking from the town, $239,000. We're also asking for associated expenses just for the fee piece. There'll be lots of expenses, but we'll break them down into, once we get them all, into buckets. So the broader perspective you can see on the map here, the South Kingstown Land Trust has already protected over the last decade everything you see in green around that pond. We like to, first there was a 12-acre piece that was going to be developed into 9 house lots that mainly neighbors came up with the funding to purchase. That was on the southwest side of the property. That was our first introduction to Yagu Pond. So at that time, we brought out people from DEM, TNC, the Nature Conservancy, biologists, and they thought that it was one of the best coastal plain ponds in the state, which is a fairly rare, unusual kind of habitat. So they were very interested in helping to preserve that. From there, we went on to the pieces on the east, 68 acres in total that were bought from members of the Buffum family a long time ago. 8 years? I don't know. I've lost track. And a lot of that funding came from the Forest Legacy Program, which is a federal program that DEM administered. So I think most of the funding came from that. Our general philosophy in protecting land is to try to clump it. It makes more sense for wildlife. It makes more sense for public enjoyment. The 68 acres that we were able to buy in fee, we have a lovely trail there that a lot of people use. We have a trailhead on Barbers Pond Road. The property that we're proposing to buy now has some trails on it. It will be not very difficult to extend our trail from the south up north, probably along the pond where there's an existing trail, and cut around to the east, loop back, and come back down to our property. So we'll be able to extend by another quarter mile at least our current trail on Yagu Pond. So we're really excited about that. It also helps to protect the quality of that pond. It's a pretty segregated. That's what the coastal plain ponds do, and the Nature Conservancy is a big proponent of protecting those kinds of ponds. So it's pretty segregated, and if there's a lot of development on ponds like that, then they can deteriorate water quality wise. So we're happy to try to put our protection projects in areas where they can help buffer one another, help protect one another, provide more benefit for wildlife, provide more benefit for water quality, and in this case for public access as well. I realized that one of the things our applications don't do is have pretty pictures, so I brought some pretty pictures. And your map really does a better job of showing exactly where everything is, but some of the photos there are pictures of the property itself where there are already some trails, pictures of views of the pond. It's just a beautiful place. It's already a pretty quiet area up in that part of town, but once you get in off the trailhead, it's like you're alone in the woods. It's a really beautiful place. So there's already a trail there. I'd encourage you to go take a walk, and then soon, hopefully, we'll make it even bigger. There any questions for me at this point, or?
So the easement on the eastern part of the property, that's agricultural land use?
That's agricultural land, right. That will be an easement that will run with the land forever, so whoever owns that property that has the house on it will have a field that can really only be used for agriculture. And that's a permanent easement.
From the application, it looked like that easement will only happen if we do the fee simple part.
Yes, this is really one project in our books. It's a combination of fee and easement components, but it's really one project. The easement project will not go forward if the fee portion does not go forward. they are linked, largely because of the DEM money. So if one doesn't happen, then the other doesn't happen. Hand in hand.
Other questions from council members?
I had a couple questions. I was looking through the application that we got from Vin with the scoring on it, and it says that portions of the parcel have the prime farmland soils and soils of statewide significance. Were you going to be leasing any land to anybody, or is it just the land that we just mentioned around the house that has the agricultural use?
Yeah, the only cleared land is around the house.
Okay.
We would not be clear cutting the fields, the forests. Even though there are some good soils out that way, we would keep it forested. There is a forest management plan in place that the landowners have had for decades, and that we would continue and would manage the forest health in that way, but we wouldn't clear cut it to create more agricultural land, no.
And then I also wanted to know, I know how much work goes into applying for grants. It can sometimes take forever, and it seems never ending. So I don't minimize how much work that must have been for your team. But I'm just wondering, under what circumstances would you guys make a financial contribution to a purchase like this? Because if you look at the funding sources, you have a private donor in the grants that you applied for. Does the Land Trust ever contribute financially with their own money to these types of purchases?
It's generally our policy that we need to fundraise for every project that we do, that we purchase. And that's because if we started buying land with money in the bank that's largely designated for other purposes, so we probably couldn't use very much of it anyway, even if we wanted to, that we wouldn't be able to cover our operating expenses. And through this process, through our DEM applications and our CS applications, we can never get reimbursed for any of our staff costs or our overhead. And if our staff doesn't exist, if our office doesn't exist, then we don't take care of the things we've already protected, and we don't do any more. So we really, in order to preserve our nonprofit organization, we really need to have our membership money and our fundraising money cover operational costs, because we can't ask for that from anybody else.
I guess I was concerned because we're using the open space bond money for these types of acquisitions, and if that money wasn't there, like the way you were just describing, if we didn't come up with the rest of the funding, or if the town wasn't able to give you the $239, then the conservation easement wouldn't be there. So the bond money eventually will run out someday, and I just wonder what the long-term plan is.
Well, I think we've still got some millions of dollars of bonding left, so I don't think we're running out anytime soon. And this town has been way in the forefront for years in providing funding for open space protection, because the town has realized how much that means, and not only in protection of air and water quality, but in contributing toward managing build-out and the increase in taxes that happens when new residential construction happens. So many years ago, the town decided to start to help with these projects, and so if at some point the money runs out, or the town doesn't want to do that anymore, which I think is probably quite a while from now, then yeah, we'll have to do other things. But we've also we're protecting what we can when we can, because at some point there won't be that much left to protect. So it's not a never-ending game. It's not infinite. It's a finite amount of land that there is out there to protect, and it's worthy of protection. We're not going to try to protect little pieces that aren't contiguous to something else that's important or that's already protected. Our projects are strategic, and this one is a good example of that. It's building on land that's already protected. It's including public access. There's water views. There's water quality aspects. So this is a good one.
I really liked that there's the public access on it. I know the last project you came to us with, obviously it's a working farm, so there couldn't be public access, but I appreciate that there is on this property. And I had one final question, which I think might be directed to Amy. When we are one of the purchasers in a sale like this, are we liable for anything that happens on that property, like if someone got hurt on a trail or maintaining it or anything like that? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any liability on the town's part.
But the town will have the affirmative right to make sure that nothing against the easement happens on the property that we own. So if we lost our minds and decided to start building houses out there, you would have the legal right to stop us. And that's important to make sure, and you will share that right with DEM, who is also putting money into the project.
The pictures you gave us are incredible. It's just a beautiful,
It's a beautiful
piece
spot.
of property,
It really
and
is.
to be able to continue the path that's already there is priceless. I mean, it would be really worth going out to and taking a walk. And I do know you've done such a great job on the properties you have that have paths, and the upkeep certainly must be daunting to all of them. So you do a very good job of keeping up the work on those.
And I did want to say that we've been working on this for over a decade, and I really want to thank the Littlefield family who's been working with us all this time to try to come to a good solution, because this land, has been in their family for so long, and now they've scattered to the various parts of the country, and but they really wanted to see it preserved, so I want to thank them for hanging in there.
I know that just over 31% of open space in this town is designated to just that, open space, and I think it's a quality of life issue too. Does that come without some sacrifices in terms of taxes? Probably there might be some tax implications. However, the voters have gone to approve these bonds on 2 different occasions, so the monies for the allocations of this is already there, and people are coming down here because of the desirability of the rural nature and the water aspects in the town, and certainly the natural aspects with the trails and things of that nature. People really enjoy that. It's a healthy lifestyle. So, thank you.
Just to clarify, Steve, this is not actually coming out of the bond money per se. It's coming out of the fund that.
Funding for.
I think I've mentioned in the past that the town works with an open space acquisition program, which is funded principally by funds coming from the real estate conveyance tax. I think it's about 80% of anything that comes into the town, the real estate conveyance taxes, is directed into that reserve fund. At the current time, that reserve fund, as of June 30, 2016, had approximately $730,000. We would use bonding if the municipality did not have those type of resources available for that funding source. We have had approximately $6.5 million worth of bonds over the past, since the year 2000, that have been used in addition to the revenue generated on an annual basis through the real estate conveyance tax.
Thank you.
Steve, what else would we use that money for? Would we make our own acquisitions of open space, or what other types of projects could we use that money for?
There's no requirement that the amount of money that goes in on an annual basis for open space acquisition needs to remain at its current level. When we last discussed this during budget process, we talked about looking at other uses of those funds for other municipal purposes, whether it be for active recreation purpose, to be able to expedite some of those projects that are going forward. In fact, I'm looking at that in the development of the capital budget for the council's consideration this December. So it isn't a case where those dollars are specifically earmarked for open space acquisition. They are under the care and control of the town council.
Oh, and I understand that. I just mean, what would we be using that $730,000 for if the land trust wasn't in need of it for this particular project? Is there anything that the town, as far as open space is concerned, takes the initiative on?
It could be under open space, it could be active recreation purpose, it could be active recreation program. But that's where it's slated right now.
Mm-hmm.
The council could move that and put that into a reserve for any purpose, let's say whether it was for, to promote affordable housing purpose, or to promote some other program. Or the council could use it so that the revenues coming from the real estate conveyance taxes would stay in the general fund and pay down property taxes. So it's a revenue source that could be totally within the general fund and pay down what property tax efforts are required on an annual basis. To date, based on the council's goals in terms of protection of environmental quality of both the open space and protection of natural resources, it's been targeted, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to continue in the same methods that have been in the past. But there's no reason why it couldn't continue based on the policy directions the council sets.
Any other questions from council members? All right. Then at this time, floor is open to the public. So first come, first serve, really. State your name for the record. And I'm going to try and hold people to 5 minutes.
I
here.
just want to make sure everybody can hear me, because I sure can't hear too good tonight. But it's nothing new. My name is Martha Stamp. And is this a working farm right now? This plot of land is it a working farm? Can anybody answer that? Well, maybe you can't hear me.
I don't think it is.
Is it a working farm? The Wells Farm?
No, it's not currently.
It's not a working farm. Okay. I'm a little puzzled. How much is it going to cost for the town to divvy up the cash? Does anybody know?
It's $239,000 is the request, plus some administrative fees as well.
That's a problem, because DEM, everybody, DEM right now wants to, they're having hearings. I've gone to 2 of them. And if they have their fingers in any property in our town and give money for it, we have a big problem in this town, because they want to bring in new people to farm. I have the rules here, and I've been to 2, and what I see is not good. I'm really here to warn the taxpayer, because this will come down to bite you. I may be dead, but I tell you what, I've seen what DEM can do to farm families. This goes back to the 1960s and 1970s, and this comes from my family, and they're still after us, because they want to take, the DEM wants to get all the property they can and give it to new farmers. Now, as my brother stated at the last hearing, we love to help new people in business. I remember my late dad giving money to people. All as he asked was to pay the money back. And we've done this all our lives. And what we've gotten is the shaft. And I just want taxpayers to know that down the road, when your children and grandchildren are coming into play in this state, and your great nieces and nephews, they have to disappear out of the state of Rhode Island, and there goes the tax base. I've lived it, so please give it some consideration. If the DEM has their mitts on that property, they'll put a new farmer there who knows not a damn thing about farming. I don't know why on that 20, I know you can't do it because it's all regulated. Take some of that 2,700 acres of farmland or whatever it is. Make them clear the stones. Bring them down out of the Providence area. Give them a job and make them make the farmland like my brother did down in Exeter. The stones are still there. Make them work. They won't go out panhandling. I've lived it all, folks. And I'm still here. I'm 79, and I've watched this since 1960. I don't want to get emotional. Since 1968. And in the 70s, they did it to us in Cranston. And they moved. Flynn, all the planning department, zoning, they're all in on it. And DeLuca is now down in Narragansett. I don't know what he's doing, but Flynn has retired. That's what happens. They move from town to town and ruin people like my family. So, folks, vote for the ones that say affordable.
Thank you, Martha. Who wants to follow Martha?
I have a question about what Martha said, if I may. Can DEM, as a part owner of that property, sell or use that land for however they want, or would all the parties in the purchase have to agree to that?
Any of the times that the council approves the use of municipal funds, there is legal documents that are prepared that specifically state what the purpose of that money was for and what restrictions it places on the property. If we're one of 5 organizations that are sharing conservation easements, we would have a determination as to whether or not that property could ever be used for any other purpose. There would have to be, all of those parties would have to agree to change. If they were going to sell a piece of property, there would have to be an agreement, and potentially there may be a requirement for a court review on that type of thing.
And it have to be a unanimous agreement between the parties, or we are the biggest?
They would have the same terms and conditions, because they've got to meet the requirements of where their money's coming from as far as ensuring that it's being used for the intended purpose that it was authorized for.
I wasn't sure if we...
There would be conservation easements, and within the easements it would state specifically what the land could be used for or what it couldn't be used for.
And because we're the largest contributor as far as the people contributing financially to the purchase, would we have more say in anything, or would it just always be a unanimous kind of decision?
In for a penny, in for a dollar. If you are resident to the conservation easement, as long as it says that everybody has the same rights that are spelled out within that easement, whether you put $1 in or you put $100 in, you would have a controlling interest. Not a controlling interest, but you'd have an interest where other parties could not make decisions on your behalf.
Okay. Thank you.
To clarify further, this is not part of DEM's proposed new farmland acquisition program for young farmers.
I'm not aware that it is. Certainly, I think the Land Trust would have to address that specifically. My understanding is that of the 19.8 acres that are there, most of that is a wooded parcel that abuts the existing wooded area, and planned future use would be conservation purpose with walking trails. Based on what the easement would be, would determine whether or not any other uses could occur. But normally DEM has blanket conservation easements, and our legal staff reviews them and signs off on those in terms of protecting municipal interests.
All right, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Linda Green, and I live in West Kingston. I am the Secretary of the Land Trust, and I will let you in on something well known in our family, is that my first date with my husband was to his family's cabin on Yagu Pond 45 years ago, right around now. Our daughters have been baptized in the pond. I run the Watershed Watch program for 29 years. Yagu Pond is a gem in terms of water quality, in terms of what it provides to everybody, not even residents of South Kingstown. I'm here tonight to read a letter that was emailed to you that you may not have had a chance to get yet. And it's from Lorraine Joubert, who is a member of the Conservation Commission. She lives on Barber Pond Road with her husband, George Loomis, and they are the people who open and shut the gate to the Yawgoo Pond Trailhead parking lot and actually, on many occasions, pick up trash up and down the street. And her letter says this: "To the honorable members of the Town Council, as a town resident, I strongly support the application by the South Kingstown Land Trust for funding to acquire additional land for protection. I urge you to approve their request. The town's support of the Land Trust is a bargain compared to the cost of providing town services to all the new homes that could be built on Land Trust properties. The cost savings are widely recognized and accepted based on the cost of community services research conducted by the URI Research Economics Department and others several years ago. The town's comprehensive plan sets high goals for providing and expanding recreational opportunities for residents. Thus, we are spending millions to build, operate, and maintain a town gym that may be used by only a small percentage of the population, and even though there are many other commercial gyms available. In comparison, protecting open space will benefit countless residents who visit the Land Trust properties throughout the year and all those who enjoy the open views of farmland and forest while driving through town. Of course, the environmental values of forests and meadows in protecting our drinking water aquifers, treating stormwater to keep our ponds and rivers clean, and providing wildlife habitat are priceless. And unlike building a gym, there are no commercial alternatives to creating open space other than protecting the little remaining. Again, I hope that you will support the Land Trust in this effort to preserve our environment and quality of life. Thank you for considering my comment. Respectfully, Lorraine Joubert, 437 Barber Pond Road in West Kingston.
Good evening. My name is Doral Beasley. I live in Kingston. I came and spoke with the council, I think it was late January, early February, concerning a change to the charter, which I was hoping they were going to consider to fill vacancies in the town council, and I'm very happy that you in fact did do that, and I think that's going to be on the ballot in November, I'm assuming. Okay. But I subsequently returned and asked for you to consider to do the same type of thing for vacancies on the school committee. Now,
Excuse me. Is this going to relate back to the open space acquisition?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. We'll get to comments from in a minute.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Roberta Mulholland, Matunic Schoolhouse Road. I'm here first to object to Abel voting on this or presiding over this meeting. Your father works for the Land Trust, and you're considering giving away the public money to your father's employer. The Land Trust currently owns 2,700 acres. Since 1990, they've been exempt from property taxes. Right now, the 2015 tax roll exempted $329,944,000. $330,000. You could have paid for that TV live streaming with $30,000 of that. We all picked that up. 2014, $325,000. They were exempted another $5,000 in 1 year. You might not think that's cutting a check, but I don't think there are very many businesses that wouldn't like to have $330,000 a year that they don't have to pay because they can use their money for other things. The Land Trust is a business. They rent land. They rent their building. They allow people to use their building who are not nonprofits. There's a dance group in Kingston, makes the claim on their website that the Land Trust Barn is their home dance. It's not a nonprofit. It's got nothing to do with open space. It's got nothing to do with any humanitarian causes. It's a business. They've been exempted for a long time. Adding more land to their 2,700 acres is just allowing them to hoard land in this town. I noticed your work session from the 15th referred to a joint work session with the South Kingstown Land Trust. The Land Trust isn't a public entity. It's a private business. It's private. Its books are private. You don't know what they do, and I never hear any questions from you. Where were the questions? Are these in perpetuity? Where were the questions? Why no question on 51 acres total, 13 in conservation, 19 that the Land Trust is going to own in fee? Well, there's more land left. What's that land for? Development? It's R80, 2 acres, 19 acres left. Is that 10 house lots? Is that part of this proposal? I'd like to know. I think that you would like to know before you give away public money. It doesn't matter if it comes from an open space bond or if it comes from the transfer tax. The transfer tax is a tax that you pay when you sell your house. Kind of like to get out of South Kingstown, you have to pay. It's a tax. It's all public money. All of it is public money. There's nothing in the open space bonds or in the description of how to use the money from the transfer tax that says it has to be given to the South Kingstown Land Trust. You have a lot of other opportunities to encourage and save and preserve open space. You just don't look at them. You look at the Land Trust with their hand out because they're very good at having their hand out. You don't look to your other taxpayers, your citizens, your property owners. Farmers are businesses. Farms are businesses. They're not just pretty. They're businesses. Where is the support for farms? I read all your re-election blobs in the local paper. You're all supporting farm, all supporting it. How? By having the Land Trust hoard land that is no longer available for farmers to purchase. There is a lack of land available to be purchased by farmers. Why are we allowing a private business to own 2,700 acres and not pay $330,000 in taxes? What is the policy in this town that would say that that's what's good because open space is good? There are a lot of farmers in this town that farm. They have open space. They know how to take care of their property. What do you do for them? What do you do for the other businesses? This is a business. If you rent the Land Trust for your funeral or your wedding, that's a business in town that didn't get a funeral or a wedding. We rent places to have these events. They're just competition. They rent a little bit of their land for agriculture. I know. My husband rents about 70 acres. Every year they cut it down, making their lawn bigger, manicuring it, making trails bigger. I know about picking up trash because their trails are full of trash. Full of them. Beer bottles, beer cans, soda cans, trash. They walk across fields that have hay in them, that have corn in them. They leave their garbage there. They do whatever they want. They're charging market rate. I'm not saying they should charge less, but that's a business. Why so much land off the tax roll? All of us pay more, including farmers. All farmers pay more. these trails, this is a recreational use of property. Saying we're not going to clear cut to make something farmland, it was farmland. That's why it has prime agricultural soils. It was farmland. Do you know how much wooded land, grown-up land was farmland in this part of the state? A lot of it. It's not some sort of taboo to make farmland what it was, but we're going to use that for trails.
So, Roberta, I've been trying to keep people to 5 minutes. If you could wrap
You
up.
haven't kept anyone to 5 minutes, Abel. I was timing it.
Everyone else was very close.
Of course, neighbors support the land trust buying the land. You know what it does to your property value? Keeps it right where it is. As other properties come in and get developed, your property stays at a nice level. The last South Kingstown Land Trust president made sure that all the land around his property got purchased, the development rights got purchased. That's nice, but that doesn't help anybody else. So neighbors, of course they think it's a great idea. I think it's time that this council looked at your open space funding policy and amended it. There's a time when there's enough land in one private ownership that is not open to the public, and everything they do is done with our money, federal, state, and local money. 1.2 million, that was the 2014 $990 they had in the bank. That's not enough. I was at the work session. That's not enough. They want $4 million in the bank. They've got 1.2 million. They could buy this property. And in the policy, it says either a conservation easement or equity. And I'm wondering, since they're putting nothing in and the town's putting the most money of everybody in, why we're not getting equity. Why aren't we owning it? We're putting the greatest money in. Does anyone know why we're not owning it?
I think we've discussed this previously, but everybody who puts money into this project gets some degree of ownership. They all have veto power over whatever decisions are made in regard to the use of the property following that.
But why don't we own it?
It's essentially, we have the same rights of owning it, but we don't have to pick up the whole cost. So, whereas this might cost $500,000 if we wanted to do it all on our own, here we get to do it for $240,000. So it's a bargain, and we don't even have to maintain the trail system.
It's not really open space. There's a trail system on the piece that they own in Green Hill that they put rusty art animals all over. Is that open space? That's funny? Yeah, it is, because it's not okay by itself. We have to add to it. It's quite interesting that this came here right before an election, and this is such a rush. That you've had this for a month. Joanne said they've been working on it for 10 years. This is a rush right before election. Everybody knows the Land Trust has a lot of political clout. I feel bad for you if you even thought about not giving them the money. But I don't think you should allow the taxpayers of this town to continue to be used this way. Just because someone approves open space bond money, nobody voted that all the money be given to the South Kingstown Land Trust to take land off the tax rolls. I think that's what you need to think about, the rest of us.
Hi, my name is Susan Littlefield, and I'm one of the 5 siblings who have been trying to come to agreement on what to do with the property that's been in our family since 1908. Our grandfather and Mr. Buffum bought 3/4 of the shoreline of Yagu at an auction back in 1908. And it's very difficult to let go of this property. There's 5 of us. I don't know if you have brothers and sisters, but trying to get 5 brothers and sisters to agree on anything has been very difficult. And Joanne's right. We've been doing this since before my mother died, and she died like 7 years ago. And we had funding all set up, and then the federal funds would go to fight the forest fires or something, and it would disappear. We'd have to start all over again. So it has been going on forever and ever and ever. I think one of my siblings is a builder, and so he, of course, saw dollar signs with the stuff. And I think full build-out was 22 to 25 lots when he was working on this stuff. And the piece was appraised at like $1 million for both pieces. And so $390,000 is nothing. We are pretty much giving this land to the Land Trust because my father was one of the founders of the South Kingstown Land Trust. And my mom, I think, was on their executive board for a long time. And we really feel strongly that we don't want houses put on this property. But none of us can afford to buy out any of the others. So we all agree that this is the best way to keep it the way it should be. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jim Farrell. I'm a resident of Wakefield. I am the treasurer of the South Kingstown Land Trust. And I'd just like to make a few remarks because I heard some things that I don't think are really accurate. So I'd just like to try and set the record straight. The South Kingstown Land Trust is a public charity. It is a 501c3 organization in the eyes of the IRS and the IRS tax code. It is not a private business. It is supported by gifts and grants from the public. Our public support was 95% in 2014, 73% in 2015. The IRS test level for that is 33.5%. We far exceed the test levels required by the IRS to be considered supported by public funds. Our purpose, I think, is clear: the conservation of open spaces and sites of historical and cultural importance to the community, for the enduring benefit of the community. That's right in our mission statement, including, importantly, farmland. Contrary to some allegations, our books are open. The town has our latest financial statement and our latest IRS Form 990. Those are available to members of the public upon request at the Land Trust office. The $1.2 million in the bank, $657,000 of that, or roughly 55%, is restricted for specific purposes such as legal defense and stewardship, and that's required by the best standards and practices of the Land Trust Alliance. We observe those as a land trust that is accredited by the Land Trust Accreditation Commission. That is not something that one gains easily. It's a very rigorous process to become accredited. They pour through your books with a fine-tooth comb and big magnifying glasses. So $546,000, roughly, is presently unencumbered of that $1.2 million. What is that money for? It's for stewardship. We are responsible for caring for and protecting the land entrusted to our care in perpetuity. In other words, forever, till the human race ceases walking the face of the earth or the legal systems worldwide break down totally. Financial modeling of the expected costs for doing that over a 25-year period looking forward suggests that our financial resources should be, and I agree with this statement, something approaching $4 million, not $1.2 million. You need that kind of an endowment to assure that you can continue to protect these properties in perpetuity and defend them legally if and when the need arises, and I know at some point it will arise. That money on our balance sheet was contributed by the public to help fund the cost of stewardship. It's not for land acquisition, and we as trustees have a fiduciary duty to respect that. I thank you very much.
Maybe, excuse me, can you stay at the podium for a moment? Another thing that was said was that $330,000 is gone. Maybe, Steve, can you... So this $330,000 figure, that's taxable property that's off the rolls, but that's not exactly the amount of dollars that the town loses in taxes, is it?
The amount of property tax that's paid is based on the parcel of land that they have at the edge of Matunic Beach Road, the building and that parcel there. The value is about $550,000. We tax that at half the tax rate, so the 550 times $7.05. So whatever that dollar amount is, that's what they're paying in property taxes. I'm not sure what the reference is to 330,000, unless somebody's. I'm sorry. What you're saying is that if you took all of the acreage, the 2,700 acres, that they'd be paying the 330,000.
This is the South Kingstown tax database.
The 329,000 from the tax roll itself shows all the parcels of land that they own if they were fully taxed. It's the assessment value. It's the assessment value just as everybody else's assessment. So that's correct. According to this analysis of the tax roll and the assessment value, that's what the cost would be. Yes. Yes, it is.
And those tax benefits are really enjoyed by the property owners in general who have the easements.
Essentially, if the land trust didn't exist and all of those parcels stayed with the original owners, they would be assessed at they would be assessed so that the tax value coming to the town would be $330,000. I agree with that statement. However, I don't think that recognizes what the value is of preventing the development of each and every one of those parcels. And I think that has to be looked at in the long run as well. Because if that land were not purchased for either a conservation purpose or in fee simple, and if that land had been developed over the last 20 years, it could in fact have a greater property tax need to be able to support the services that were necessary there. So I think it's not a fair comparison.
Right.
Being objective, certainly you'd lose the 330, but that assumes that that land would have stayed in its natural state if it had not been pursued by the land trust and protected from development purposes.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Any question for me specifically? No. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to give other people a chance to speak.
For Steve, on the list, not all of this property is protected in perpetuity, correct?
No, I do not think that all of it is, but I think that there is a number of small parcels that they would own that I have no knowledge as to what restrictions there are on that property.
That would be something,
If somebody had given them an acre of land someplace, they could have that without restrictions, and they would be able to sell that, if that's what your question is. But what I'm saying is that when you present a list and you say there's $330,000 in taxes that they don't have to pay, I'm just suggesting that there's two ways of looking at that argument.
there's a value to open space. There's a value to open space in the original owners. And there are other ways to preserve open space. Your farm forest open space, you haven't renewed it. It's old. It's out of date. You've got tiny little lots in there. Don't even know how they're in there, 1.87 acres. Why is that even in there? There are other things the council can do to preserve our rural character. And you need to look at that. And when in 1990 you voted on Ordinance 17-5, and it wasn't you, I'd be interested in how much more land the Land Trust took over and how many people who sold that land might have kept it if it was a large parcel of agricultural land that they didn't have to pay taxes on. It's not a level playing field. And that's what everyone in this town deserves. I'm not against open space. I am against a private organization owning all this land in our town and basically hoarding it.
Joanne Riccitelli again. I do have some numbers on how much of the land that we have is unrestricted. We have our total acreage that we protect is 2,725 acres. Of that, 245 acres, about 9%, it does not have any kind of permanent restriction. There are 53 properties that make up that 245 acres, so these are little lots that have been donated to us over time by people who wanted to not own it anymore. Some of these are wetlands and are undevelopable. Some of them might be developable. We have the legal ability to sell them if we wanted, and I think on 3 occasions we have sold lots of roughly an acre, half acre, quarter acre to the neighbor next door to these lots, with the agreement that the neighbor would then give us a conservation easement on the land, so it would stay unrestricted but become a bigger yard for someone. So we could do more of that. We could sell some of those to neighbors and keep them preserved. But it's 9% of what we have, and it's because people have given it to us. For most of them, I don't think we would be able to find a holder for an easement if we wanted to. I don't think DEM, I don't think the town, I don't think the Nature Conservancy would want an easement to permanently protect a 4-acre piece somewhere. And in the industry, in the land trust industry, organizations do take on, they call them trade lands or non-conservation lands, pieces that are of not, are maybe not the best conservation value, but a landowner wants to give it to a land trust, and in some cases, we, like other land trusts, will take those properties explicitly telling the landowner as they give it to us, we may not protect this forever. This is too small, too isolated, too whatever it is, and we may use it, we may sell it to further our mission to do other things. We haven't done very much of that except for neighbors and just a couple of handful of times because it's, we protect land. We don't want to be seen as selling land. If we needed to, we could look there, but it's not, any piece of land down the road may become a valuable conservation piece of land. They talk about pocket parks. They talk about urban parks. Small pieces of land can have a lot of value, like the sculpture trail that was referred to. It's a little, this part of this property is just 3 acres, but there's outdoor sculptures on it. We had a meeting there, an event there on Sunday, and we had 60 people come look around and have the person who put it together explain why it happened, and it's a very unusual thing. But it was a perfect fit for that property that had already been somewhat used and somewhat open to the public, and we didn't want to invite, vandalism. So it was a really good solution for that particular piece. But there are other little pieces that who knows if they might be valuable. So we don't really want to sell these little things. We want to try to keep them and see of what use they can be made later on.
One point in the, when the town, or when the land trust wishes to sell a parcel out of its ownership, it has to come to the town council.
You state your name for the record.
My name is Clarkson Collins. I live in Kingston.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim O'Neill, Matunic. I just wanted to touch on why I support the town's investment in this property and why so many taxpayers in this community support this. You know me over the years, I love numbers, but I'm going to give you some numbers, and I think it's very important. 2000, open space, we've raised $6.3 million in 2000, 202, 204, 206, 4 different bond issues, $6.3 million. Open space issues have averaged almost 80%. That is unheard of in the state of Rhode Island. Only environmental issues come close to that. The only bond ever in the town of South Kingstown that approached 80% was when the South Road School, elementary school roof was caving in, and the voters anteed up 80%. Just to put that in perspective, in 2000, the open space bond issue achieved 8,111 votes. Al Gore got 6,300, Chafee 6,900, Sue Sosnowski 6,100. This is telling you something. 2002, open space voters, non-presidential year, 7,230 votes. Jack Reed, same amount, unopposed. Langevin, 6,900 votes. Is this telling you what the voters of this town want us to do? How about 2004? Open space issue, 9,527 votes. John Kerry, 8,000. Sosnowski, 8,240. Langevin, 8,600. Do you get the message? Non-presidential year, 2006, open space, 9,346 votes. Sue Sosnowski, 8,280. Of course, school committee, town council people never even approached those numbers. 2008, President Obama elected, 93-36. That was 2008, but that was a presidential year. His election victory by that amount did not approach the open space in 2006 of 93-46. This is loud and clear. The voters of this town and this state, this is the right thing to do. The councils over the last 20 years have been absolutely adamant in their approval of this. The application process is tough. This is basically a case-by-case situation. They have to go through an incredible application process. And the benefits of that are just incredible, and you're not looking at them, which you should look at. First of all, in the economy, I can't tell you, I'm in the real estate business. People come to South Kingstown. We've got honky-tonk on the beach, but we've got farms, open space. We've got woodlands along the highway. This is fantastic. Only 150 miles from New York City. This is a dream come true. Jobs that are created. Phenomenal. Rental markets. Our restaurants benefit. Everyone benefits from open space purchase. Everyone. Property values. Obviously, South Kingstown's an expensive town, but everyone seems to be doing very well with that. Climate change. We all talk about climate change, right? We're all worried about that. Latest University of Rhode Island, the National Science Association, so on and so forth. 32 tons of carbon dioxide from 100 trees. That is what is removed from the atmosphere in 1 year. 100 lousy trees. an acre. Wow, you're talking about healthy stuff. Healthy places by design. If you can't make it to the beach, you've got trails. The air is better. Automatically healthy places by design. What a winner. Lower property taxes. Been a lot of talk tonight about 2,700 acres. Boy, shame on them, $300,000-$400,000 in taxes that we're missing. I just did an equation for you, and this is factual. 2,700 acres. Now, the average, most of this acreage is 2-acre zoning. I'm going to really be conservative. 5-acre zoning divided into 2,700. You've got 540 house lots. 0.4 children of those. So we have 220 kids. Right now, we've got about $18,400 per child to educate. That's $3.8 million, and we're worried we're talking about $330,000? Joe, $3,800,000 annually of savings. My goodness. Whoa.
Jim.
Yep.
just,
Am I 5
you know.
minutes?
Yes.
I'm just about done. But anyway, the point of everything is here, there are multiple deeds, signatures to the deeds. You heard that tonight. There's not an issue there. But you've got to respect the voters. They have overwhelmingly said, do deals like this. There are very few left, and what great opportunities to put a trail system together, which will benefit the public as well as our climate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Torfy, and I live in West Kingston. And Yagu Pond is a beautiful and special place. It's quiet and clean and very protected and undeveloped. And I think that any opportunity you have to help protect this beautiful place, you should take advantage of. Thank you.
I don't see any other public comments. Are there comments from council members at this point?
I'll just state at this point, so there's a system that's been in place for a long time here that has been set up by previous councils. Between the bonding and even this council, I believe we, in our capital improvement budget, we allocate some for open space. Is that correct, Steve?
We allocate, I'm sorry, Joe?
We allocate some money in the capital improvement budget for...
Pay for the debt service, yes.
Yeah. So things have been set up for years. Now, there may be a question about whether or not this money that we have in reserve, $73,000, going forward, what we do with it. But previous councils have set this in motion. And whether you think open space acquisition is good or not, or the South Kingston Land Trust is the way to do it, or the town is the way to do it, previous councils have set this money aside for this purpose. And again, as I said, going forward, maybe we look at that, but I think sort of the system is in place.
Abel, if I may, there was a comment, just a brief comment, much earlier this evening when the Wakefield Village was up here talking about the event they're going to have. And one of the comments they said is how excited they were for the river fire and what a great new event that's been for the community. And briefly, they mentioned before they left how nice it would be to clean up the Saugatucket River. When years and years ago, kids used to walk to Wakefield School and intentionally walk across the bridge to see what color the river would be, because depending on what the mill was dying would determine what was running downstream. When I look at the price of this piece, it's so small when you think of the price of trying to clean a river or clean a pond. Preserving our open space and our natural resources is such a fraction of what it would cost to try to go back. And I look at the Saugatucket River. That's not going to be a clean river in my lifetime. It certainly has come a long way. It's not changing colors anymore, and it's come a very long way, but it's not there. So when we have an opportunity to preserve a pond and some space, especially for this price, for the family that is practically giving this land, the 5 kids coming to this agreement, the meaningfulness it had to their family, that it go to the land trust, I just believe every factor here is one that we need to take advantage of.
I also look at the numbers, and I was thinking about what Mr. O'Neill said, if there was the opportunity to develop some of these parcels that have been acquired, this parcel alone could have an increase of not only the number of students, but the cost to educate it, and the additional expenses of the town services, snow removal, other services that the town would provide. I agree with the rest of the council. $239,000 plus a $16,000 contingency is a small price to pay to preserve the quality that people have come to expect when they either move here or have lived here for their entire lives. People come here because of the beauty and the nature of this town. The quality of living here is second to none.
If this parcel of land wasn't already abutting a land trust property with the trails and the plans that you have for the trails on it, I would be a lot more reluctant to spend that kind of money when I don't feel like the land trust has the financial investment in it. I know that we're looking to the future and how much it costs to maintain the property, how much time it took your staff to write the grants. Those are all financial contributions that are not in numbers here, so I understand the cost of maintaining the property and what the value is in that. But I like that it abuts a property you already have. I love that you're going to continue the trails on it, and the language that we have here says that our contribution would be dependent on that to make sure that you do extend those trails. I think that we really need to look at that real estate conveyance tax and other ways that we could spend it. I think that if we're looking to offer relief to farmers in particular, obviously the farm forest open space offers a break on taxes. Maybe we can redirect some of the money that we're using for open space towards that if we decide that's a priority of the council. I think that there's a lot of opportunities for other ways to explore open space acquisition and how to maintain it. We don't always have to go this route. I think that this particular project is a great project, but I do think that it warrants further discussion on the council table about other ways that we might be able to redirect that money and spend it effectively.
From my perspective, I think the merits of this particular acquisition speak for themselves. It's, I mean, if you look at the map up there, it's just a nice conservation piece. That's why it scored so well on our metrics. And I do think that there's a lot of value that the land trust puts into this property and preparing for 10 years to make this acquisition, but going forward in terms of their maintenance. So this is really, as I said before, a pretty good deal for the town. If we wanted to do this on our own in terms of open space acquisition, it would cost significantly more, and we would be on the hook for all sorts of maintenance fees coming due. So for all those reasons, I think it's a great purchase. I commend all the people who came together, including the family, on making it possible. Do I hear a motion to close this public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Do I hear a motion on item 7B?
I will make a motion to approve item 7B. The town council hereby approves an application from the South Kingstown Land Trust in accordance with South Kingstown's open space project funding policy concerning the Wells Farm. Said funding is granted in the amount not to exceed $239,000 towards the fee simple acquisition of 19.76 acres of Assessor's Plat Lot 5, Lot 8. The council also authorizes funding in an amount not to exceed $16,000 for allowable reimbursable cost. Said approval is contingent upon the following conditions. The South Kingstown Land Trust shall submit to the administrative officer of the planning board all of the items required by the checklist for administrative subdivision found in Article 15 of the Town of South Kingstown, Rhode Island Subdivision and Land Development Regulations in order to merge the purchased property with Assessors Plat 8, Lot 6, as depicted on the plan entitled Administrative Subdivision for the Wells Farm Limited Partnership dated 8/15/16 by the American Engineering Incorporated, 400 South County Trail, Suite A201, Exeter, Rhode Island. South Kingstown Land Trust shall commit to providing public access to the purchased property through an extension of the existing Yagu Pond Trail system. It is hoped that this memorandum and various attachments are sufficient for the review of the Wells Farm formal application for open space funding consideration.
Second that.
Just one suggestion, on the first paragraph that was read into the record, it noted specifically 19.76. I would ask to add to that plus or minus, because I'm not sure what the exact acreage will be. I know what your intent is, but I want to have that so we're not down to that level of specificity.
So amended, plus or minus 19.76 acres.
So moved. Any further discussion?
I'll just also mention that in considering this motion that's before us, I won't speak for the other counselors, but I think I know that we do seriously consider the taxpayer and weighed everything here.
Any further comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to public hearing C, relative to a proposed amendment to the Town Code, Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Traffic. This is for boulevard and street stop signs designated. Stop signs shall be placed at the following intersections, and vehicles traveling on the first named street shall stop before entering the second named street. And this would add, good night everybody, Grace's Lane. Vehicles traveling in a general northerly direction must stop at the intersection of Sir Michael's Circle. Steve.
There was a request from residents in the Grace's Lane area and Sir Michael Circle area for consideration of a stop sign to be located at the intersection of Grace's Lane as it meets Sir Michael Circle. There are a number of homes located off of Grace's Lane itself. There is some restriction in terms of sight distances at that intersection. This has been reviewed by the town's engineering division and also the police department, and the recommendation, based on a review of uniform traffic devices, was that a stop sign is warranted at that location. Staff recommends that the council consider directing that action, which is required to go through this type of a public hearing forum. So obviously, if there's comments from the public, those should be heard at this time.
Any questions from the council? Okay, then, if there's anybody from the public who has anything to add to this public hearing? Very good.
Motion that we close the public hearing?
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Do we hear a motion on 7C?
I make a motion that we approve item 7C as presented.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously and brings us to the end of our public hearings. Item 8 is communications. A is a communication dated August 16th, 2016 from James M. Manny, Narragansett Town Manager, regarding the establishment of a Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Council and requesting the appointment of a council representative and designation of a staff member to work with the group. It's been received and placed on file, and what are we going to do with it? We discussed it a little bit in the work session. Steve, do you want to give us a little more background?
As I've noted in the memorandum that I've forwarded to you on this, the Narragansett Town Manager has contacted our office on August 16th and indicated that at the Narragansett Town Council's August 15th meeting had passed a resolution for calling for the creation of a, their words, Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Council that would look at what the needs are of the senior population and whether or not they're being appropriately met, both jointly and individually within the two communities. There was a draft resolution that was adopted by the Narragansett Council on August 15th. Subsequent to that, at the request of the Narragansett Council, staffs from South Kingstown and Narragansett met to review that draft resolution. South Kingstown Leisure Services Director Terry Murphy was requested by me to prepare a scope of services for that type of committee that would provide greater definition as to what would be expected from that committee, as well as to specifically review the various representatives that should participate in those quarterly meetings. She did draft that. We provided copy after our discussions with Narragansett staff. Narragansett then brought it back to their staff reviews and had suggestions for additional revisions. In last Thursday's manager's report, I gave you the revised, amended resolution that if the council were interested, you could adopt, and they've also asked the council consider appointing a specific member of the council to be the council's liaison to that advisory council. Council really can take 3 steps here. Take this matter under advisement. 2, it could adopt the resolution. We would suggest as amended from what Terry's original draft provided, and pass that without appointing a council member at this point and have that subject to further discussion, or take both actions, pass the resolution, and also appoint one of your number to be the liaison for the South Kingstown Council when this group begins to meet. As I mentioned in the pre-session, I think a good deal of the initial discussions that Narragansett is interested in is a needs assessment within their community, as well as a better understanding of the services that South Kingstown renders on behalf of Narragansett in terms of welcoming persons to the meal site, welcoming people to the senior center, and also for participation with the adult services program. So I think that it's only a positive move to better identify for both communities, both individually and jointly, how we can better serve that element of our population that is growing on a yearly basis, and at the same time be able to hopefully provide even greater coverage to that population as to the services that are available that accompany the property taxes today.
Was there any mention of when they would like the first meeting to happen?
I don't have that information. I think Narragansett was talking about sooner rather than later, but we didn't get a defined date.
I'm just thinking, it seems like a good resolution,
I
but
think their meeting, they were looking at probably sometime in October.
okay, so it would wouldn't make sense to wait until after the election, because we might have new members who might,
That's fine, it's certainly your prerogative as to what steps, if any, you want to take.
what's the pleasure of the council?
Well, could we approve it as redrafted by Terry and wait, and a council person can step up to do that at a later date?
I think since we discussed the meetings would take place on a quarterly basis, if you will, the structure of their council will certainly change possibly, and the structure of our council will also change. So I think it would be prudent to wait till after the election and then have both councils make a decision as to who the representative would be designated if everybody's in agreement.
Like us to, if the council wishes, Dale can contact you in advance as to the council took this under consideration and would have both the deal and issue subsequent to the new council term.
Yeah, just the appointment. I think we,
You're going to adopt the resolution this evening and just hold off on it. That's fine.
So I'll make a motion to pass the resolution as amended by the Leisure Services Director with an appointment of a council member at a future date.
Second.
so moved. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 9 on the agenda, comments from interested citizens. I'm glad you stuck around.
Mr. Beasley's very patient tonight.
Welcome. Good evening. I'm Ella Whaley. Where'd she go? My daughter, Margaret Whaley. 518 Asiatic Road, Wakefield, Rhode Island. I am the secretary and the treasurer for the VFW Auxiliary, Washington County Post 916 on High Street, and Margaret is the guard. And I'm going to read that. We have a letter from our VFW. If you could give one to Dale and the rest to the town council. We also hold offices for the VFW Auxiliary for the state of Rhode Island. So I would like to just briefly read this letter. Dear Honorable South Kingstown Town Council, at our VFW Auxiliary meeting on September 11th, 2016, a motion was made and passed to ask the South Kingstown Town Council for a proclamation to recognize the month of September 2016 as Veteran and Military Suicide Awareness Month. So the question is, would you please place this on your agenda for the September 26th, 2016 Town Council meeting? And many thanks for your service and your consideration. This has been a proclamation that prior town councils have done to do a proclamation for September. So looking at prior proclamations, Suicide Prevention Month encourages veterans and their loved ones to focus on the prior years. There have been much confusion about what time that parade, the Firemen's Parade, starts. Usually the Veterans Day and the Memorial Day Parade starts at 10. This one, if you would like to make that notice to the public and the starting place, because it's all different, if somebody could clarify those 3 questions to the public tonight, that would be quite helpful. I believe it's 12 o'clock in the Peacedale Mills.
12 o'clock for the
Ceremonies.
1 o'clock the
Just-
parade begins. I don't remember the starting point, though, if you could remind me of
I believe it's the fire department at,
okay.
At High Street, right across from the market. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Bruce Nielsen. I have some positive comments. I have a tree that's on my property, partially on my property, and in 2006, I approached then town president Kathy Fogarty for some assistance. And just today, I have to tell you that through the efforts of the Public Services Office, John Chuck, Scott Brown, work started on that. And I'm very appreciative. I'm appreciative of the positive communications and the positive efforts of the people there. It's been a while. It's a significant danger, and it still remains a danger, but I know John and the staff are working on it. Additionally, for a positive comment, I'm a patron of the Peacedale Library. I have been very impressed with Pam Kaczynski and her efforts, her very, very, very positive output and professionalism. I'm surprised that she has not yet been, I can't do this with a straight face. I'm surprised that she hasn't been named director yet, but it's probably because of the spelling of her name. It's so difficult, but perhaps that will come in time. My opinion only. I heard tonight about senior collaboration with Narragansett, and I heard about an appointment of a liaison to a committee of that sort. I'm interested where I could find the liaisons to the various committees in town from the town council. There's a school committee liaison, I believe. There's one for the planning board, I believe.
You mean of the council members themselves?
That's correct.
I think the only other committee where we have a liaison who's a council member is the Partnership for Prevention.
Which I am the liaison
Yeah. Really? Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck to everybody tomorrow.
Thank you.
It's finally your turn.
All right, we'll try this again.
Patient, patient man.
So anyway, I came back, I think, like in sometime in April, and I brought up the possibility of the same type of change to the charter would be made, so that if a vacancy to the school committee came up, it would go back to the prior election if there were more than the allotted candidates that had been taken the open position. So I went back and looked at the last 6 elections for school committee. Started in 2004. There were 4 open positions, 8 candidates. 2006 were 3 open positions, 5 candidates. 2008, 5 open positions, 7 candidates. 10, 3 positions for 5 candidates. 12 was 4 for 6 candidates. And the last one was 4 and 4, so, you know, there were no extra ones, but in those 5 elections prior to 2014, there were people in the queue that had gone out of their way to run for a position, which we all hope that people will do every 2 years, come forward and put themselves up for an election to the council, the school committee, whatever is open. So I would like you to reconsider your decision. From what I've heard, you decided that you weren't going to change the charter for the school committee openings, if there were any, between elections. And I was wondering why. Maybe somebody could tell me why you decided to do that, or not to do that.
I don't know if I can remember quite clearly, and I know we're not really supposed to address this in a...
Well, okay, let me say this. Originally, the first time I came here was because for the council, the charter says that it was to have a special election. So the whole deal was last year we had this special election we really didn't need. So I think you agreed with that at some point, and you asked for the charter to be amended for that.
Hold on, I'd need a motion to move this as an agenda item for discussion.
I'll make a motion to move this to an agenda item so that we can discuss.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So, I mean, I think there probably is some consensus that we could make that charter change, but it will require another whole cycle and putting it forward to the General Assembly.
So for this election this fall, we're past the point of no return. Is that what you're saying?
You need somebody at the General Assembly to put in a bill that authorizes a charter.
All right, I'll be back in a couple of years. All right, let's, okay, quickly.
Now we can be motion to close that item. Is that? Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
That was good. All right, thank you. You guys are efficient. Schools. I've been asked by a whole bunch of people around town in the last couple of weeks, why do we have to close the schools for a primary election? And I remember there was one year we had an election. I'm not sure if it was a primary. It might have been a special election, but I think we all went to the high school gymnasium. The whole town went to the gymnasium. But is there a reason why all the schools have to be closed for a primary election? Because it seems like you're really putting the burden on parents and everybody else for an election where you're probably not going to get that many people out.
When it's a local primary election for town council, which we have, the Board of Elections requires us to have all of our polling locations open.
So the only polling locations in this town are in the schools and the Boss Ice Rink?
We use the schools for polling locations because the schools have adequate parking and they are handicapped accessible.
The other thing is that we have to have polling places within the districts. So you've got multiple districts where the only publicly available building with handicapped accessibility are our school buildings.
Okay.
So there's multiple reasons why, but we have to stay within the district or we have to get an approval from the state to be able to move a polling place out of that district.
All right, now I have an explanation when people ask me the question. And lastly, a comment concerning the open space kind of brought something back to my memory bank. Does the town have an ordinance? So let's say a developer wants to develop some land.
Then the planning board would be able to work with them as far as trying to save as much as we have to reduce as possible. There's no state law that would prevent somebody from cutting trees on their own property. That's the best answer I can give you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Further comments from the public? All right, comments from council members.
I just wanted to make a comment that this past Friday I was able to attend the Domestic Violence Resource Center's annual fundraiser. It was a 1950s themed event, and it was a great time. They certainly did a wonderful job and raised a lot of money, so that was impressive. Also, I know town staff has been working very, very hard on our new website, and that is up, and kudos to everybody that's been working on it. It looks great, and hopefully everyone will have an opportunity to check that out.
We also had the opportunity yesterday, 9/11, members of the council were there. I know Ella and Margaret were there. We went to the VFW to remember and give a tribute to 9/11, but more importantly, to burn flags that had been placed throughout town so that could probably be disposed of. and the VFW did a really, really nice job.
It was a wonderful flag retiring ceremony. Joe Tiger Patrick and Steve Stewart did a wonderful job organizing it. It was a very moving ceremony.
I did want to say, a few months ago, we had the Boy Scouts here after I had met with them to talk about community advocacy and how to be more engaged in your community. And one of the concerns they had was the graffiti that was underneath the bridge over by Wakefield School. Gave me very explicit details about what it said. And I was downtown for a river fire on Thursday, and it had been painted over. And so that was one of the projects that they felt really important to make sure they relayed to the town council. And I was really happy to see that it was taken care of. And I know our Parks and Rec department and Public Works work really hard to maintain all those areas. And it's a little thing, but it meant a lot to those kids. And I made sure to call the troop leader and tell him to tell his boys that it had been taken care of. So I just wanted to say thank you and kudos to the town staff that took care of that.
Well, we noticed the fence left to continue to repair and continues to get
Mm.
We'll be dealing with that as well.
So I think the Partnership for Prevention is going to be hosting something at the high school on the 20th in the evening, maybe 6:30, if I remember correctly, on opioid addiction and overdose and what the community is doing to prevent that. So I hope a lot of community members can attend that. It's a problem everywhere. Also, what was the other thing? There's a fundraiser coming up at the Dunes Club for the Johnny Cake Center.
The Waves of Hunger.
Yeah, can somebody remind me of the details of that? I just want people to be aware of it. Tickets are still available for that. I think that's all I...
This coming Friday.
It is.
So this Friday. All right. Town manager's report.
I have nothing further to add than what we talked about in the early session. Answer any questions.
Good. Amy, anything from the solicitors? All right, thank you very much. That brings us to new business. We've already taken care of that. So 13E is a resolution authorizing the amendment of a contract originally awarded on September 14th, 2015 to East Coast Seal Coating of Abington, Massachusetts from an amount not to exceed $38,500 to an amount not to exceed $94,250, including a contingency of $1,500, to provide an additional $55,750 for crack repair and resurfacing of Old Mountain Field upper tennis courts and Broad Rock Middle School tennis courts in accordance with all bid specifications, further described in a memo from the Director of Leisure Services to the Town Manager.
As noted in Terry's memorandum, we went out to bid last September, and East Coast Seal Coating was the lowest qualified bidder to do a number of different tennis courts in South Kingstown. We were planning on replacing the two tennis courts at Old Mountain Field. In reviewing the conditions, we felt that those did not need to be replaced at this time, but rather to be, have the cracks sealed, filled, and new resurfacing and line painting. We also had a serious look at the Broad Rock tennis courts, which are the ones that get the most use in town, and found that the lines were faded, as well as we were showing cracks that needed to be adjusted. We went back to the contractor, asked if they would be willing to hold their prices from last September. They agreed that they would. What we are looking at this evening is that to do the proper repairs on Old Mountain Field would be $12,970, and the 6 courts at Broad Rock would be $5,880 per court. We would also be spending $6,000 for the crack sealing, and we'd have a contingency of $1,500. That's where the $55,000 number comes from. we think this is a far better use of the money than replacing courts if there's not a need for that. Ask the council to consider the resolution as presented.
Do we hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve item number 13E.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously and brings us to the end of tonight's regular session agenda.
I'll make a motion to move into closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2 to discuss matters pertaining to litigation, South Kingstown Municipal Employees Association, NEARI, and the RI Council 94, AFS CME, AFL-CIO.
So moved. This is going to require a roll call vote.
Council President Collins.
Aye.
Council Vice President Healy.
Aye.
Councilwoman Clow.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gladhill.
Aye.
Councilman Veely. Unanimous affirmative vote to recess to close executive session to discuss matters pertaining to litigation, South Kingston Municipal Employees Association, NEARI, and RI Council 94.
Excuse me, folks. I have to ask you to leave at this point.
Well, we should, when we come back, it's starting at,
Hmm?
it's not starting at, first of the month, it's starting at.
Well, yeah, that's what we said.
No, no, Ella said across from the, Peacedale, at Peacedale, it's not starting, it's gonna be forced. You're gonna win tonight.
Oh, huh.
It's changed, so when we open
Wait a
this
minute.
up.
We've got another straggler.
Hey, see, Billy, we never want to see you leave. I'm going to be... Dave won't be there either.
We have two items to discuss with you tonight. One is, the first one I think is relatively simple.